Now is the time to really implement things, to really change things, and just to do it, because actually there is no alternative for the public sector rather than to participate in the digital transformation. I'm Viktoria. I'm the Managing Director of Possible. We are a GovTech boutique consultancy. What does that mean? It means that we work with both startups and tech companies and the public sector to realize innovation projects, to realize the digital transformation of the public sector. That's what we're working on. Well, one of the biggest challenges in the public sector that we see, and I think that citizens also see, is that there are many bureaucratic processes, right, that the public sector has to deal with. And what we do when we come into a public authority or when we work on a project together with a tech company in the public sector, I think the first practical step to take is to ask, is this the right process, right? Because I think government is very good at doing things the way it has always been done, but digital transformation offers a good chance to really critically question how things have been done, and it really is necessary to change processes from the beginning and not only to take an analog process and to digitize it, because then you might just have a bad process that was analog and that then becomes digital. And what we see in joint innovation projects with the tech sector and the public administration is that you really need to rethink how things are being done and to look at how things have been done and to really ask, how can we do this in a digital way? So that's what we work at. Well, to all startups out there who develop digital products and solutions, I totally understand, and we as a company, that the public sector at first sight might look like a very complicated customer, right? It's difficult to understand how the public sector works, how to sell your product to the public sector, how to participate in a public tender, and what requirements perhaps your product needs to comply with to be suitable for the public sector. So it might be a little daunting, but the good news is there are people there who can help you. That's what we do. That's what many experts out there do, is to really facilitate the interaction between startups and the public sector. And the other good news is that the public sector is a gigantic market. So it's a big, big opportunity for tech companies to sell their digital products and solutions to the public sector, because the public sector is really in dire need of good solutions. And once you have understood how your product can address specific problems in the public sector, and once you have found a good public sector strategy, then the public sector can really become what we like to call an anchor customer, and can really open sort of many, many doors into a big market and a trustworthy market, and the public sector can become a reliable partner for startups as well. Well, often we see that trust is an issue when working with the public sector or when connecting the public sector and the tech world, because it's just two different worlds that function differently. And then, of course, building trust, or in the first step, making connections, right? In the end, it's people coming together working on digital transformation projects. And when you bring people together and they develop a mutual understanding of the problems that need to be tackled, then our experience is that trust can be built between the public sector and the startups or the tech world in general if there is openness, if there is mutual understanding for both tech companies to understand, okay, why is it that the public sector pays a lot of attention to security, to cybersecurity, to cloud issues, and to many other sort of technological questions surrounding digital products. But also, on the other hand, the public sector or we have made very good experience if the public sector representatives, they also have an openness to understand the startup side, and that they really understand, okay, what does the startup work like? What is needed sort of to facilitate our interaction? What can we as the public sector do to help the startup? How can we shape a contract? How can we shape a project so that it becomes a success? And that's sort of, I think, one of the biggest success factors in building those joint projects. I think when the public sector looks at digitalization, for many actors it becomes like a big thing, a huge challenge that sort of stands in front of us and that somehow needs to be tackled. But from our experience, I can say that, well, that's a misconception, because we're right in the middle of digital transformation. We have been in there for many, many years, or decades, if you wish, with e-government, public sector innovation. Now everybody's talking about GovTech, but we're in the middle of it. And what we believe is that really there is no need to be afraid. We're in it. Now is the time to really implement things, to really change things, and just to do it, because actually there is no alternative for the public sector rather than to participate in the digital transformation. We see huge demographic challenges for the whole of society, but also for the public sector. Many civil servants or public employees will retire in the coming years, and somehow those gaps, they need to be filled. And I do not believe that they will all be filled with new people coming into the public sector, but smart solutions need to be found how to tackle those challenges with technological solutions. And certainly AI or any kind of digital products, they must be part of it. Well, we at Possible, we run most of our projects in Germany with the German public sector, but we've also had the pleasure to work internationally over the last few years, and we have a big international network. And sort of looking outside of Germany, I can really say that other countries are leading the way, or they give us good examples of what Germany can do. And to me, one of the very good examples in government innovation, public sector digitalization, is the UK. GovTech has really been a thing there for many years, and the government, the public sector, has understood that it requires some clear guidance regarding technology that applies to the whole public sector. So there have been some decisions that have really said, okay, if the public sector wants to use a cloud-based product or an AI-based product, these are the rules and procedures that a supplier needs to adhere to. There are digital platforms where suppliers can really offer their products to the public sector, and that has really given the public sector in the UK a big shift and gives tech companies really certainty. Okay, what do they need to comply with to work with the public sector? And also within government, the UK government digital services is a great example of how you can really bring people from the private sector to come to work in the public sector to really address meaningful challenges with the benefit for the whole of society. We have been running an accelerator program for startups for 5 years now, which is called GovStart. And through this program, we select startups that we believe and they believe have good solutions for the public sector. What makes a good GovTech solution stand out? Well, the first thing that we always look at is, does this solution, this digital product, this technology, does it really address a problem in the public sector? And that is where we sort of bring in our public sector expertise when looking at products, and we say, okay, it might be a great product, but what is actually the status quo in the public sector? Where are the big pain points that can be addressed with this solution? And many often startup founders or founding teams, they also know it because they might have worked in the public sector themselves, and then they have developed sort of their idea for their product. But yeah, that really for me makes a good GovTech solution stand out, that it's not just a technology being thrown at whatever processes or tasks, but that you really take a moment to think about, okay, what is it that I want to solve? Is it mobility management in a city? Is it data management in a local authority? Is it a strategic, more of an IT question, right? There are many, many different challenges to be addressed. And if we see a startup that has really thought about it and that has an understanding of the public sector that we also help with in our joint work through the startup program, then this is a good factor for paving the way. So when we work with GovTech startups, right, many startups, they focus on traditional verticals, right? They focus on education, health, mobility, defense, all of which are highly relevant and where good solutions are needed. One area which I believe is often overlooked is sort of the inner workings of administrations. You have many, many processes, you have a lot of manual administration, you have challenges in cooperating, communicating within authorities. So actually, if I would have been asked, I would say sort of the inner workings of the public sector, that's where a big potential for assistant technologies lies, right? Where many, many AI-based agents, for example, could support public employees in their work, which might not necessarily be sort of at the interface with citizens, but that's where there's a big need for assistant technology.